Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Now, many of us first met our next guest on the hit reality show, Braxton Family Values. But what many people don't know, that he is an expert when it comes to health and wellness. And tonight he joins us to discuss stem cells that many of us, especially in the Black community, have no clue about. Please help me welcome Von Scales. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Definitely appreciate you. Had the honor of meeting you about a month ago.
That's right.
And we had a great conversation.
We did.
So, yeah. So let me ask you, I got to ask you about the family. You know, you're married to Trina Braxton, and, you know, I know you all aren't shooting now, but how is that adjustment now to the attention that you all get when you're out and about?
It took me a while to get used to being noticed and things of that nature, because, you know, I played sports my whole life, right. and I was used to stuff like that happening to me in Missouri, Missouri and Illinois. Mm-hmm. But it was always, basketball driven. It was always a specific type of person. It was an athlete, or something like that. But this is, anybody, and everybody, and just come out of nowhere. It's an adjustment. It's an adjustment. Yeah. But I think that I've finally gotten to the point to where I'm not shocked by it anymore. Okay. I used to look like a deer in headlights a lot of time when people would, call my name, because I'm not from here. And
right. Yes, I'm sure it was an adjustment, but you said you feel like a good place now. It was interesting. I'm not gonna share some of the stories we talked about, but when we met about when you first started filming, and you came off very quiet and a little bit shy on the show, but when I met you in person, you're not that person. You're not shy at all.
Right. No, it's, and a lot of people say, man, why aren't you saying anything? Or why aren't you doing this? It's like, well, you'd be nervous too.
Yeah.
I've never been in a situation, I've been on camera before talking about sports, know, but I've never been on camera with seasoned professionals who knew how to do this sort of thing. There's one particular instance where Trina was in California shooting, and they were doing a birthday celebration, and the production company decided to fly me in to surprise her, right? Mm-hmm. And they were in this, we're at the Four Seasons, and they were in this private room. And so the whole deal was Tawanda came out to get me, because she knew. She's the only one that knew.
Okay.
Trina didn't have any idea. And she's like, okay, come on. And she's pulling me in. We're like, wait a minute. She's like, what? I said, I got to get ready. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, in that room is the mom, it's Tony, it's Tracy, it's Trina, Tamar, and my dumb ass. Everybody else is a seasoned professional. Right. You know what I mean? And Tawanda, I'm sorry, it's everybody. And all of them were there, and me. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm the only man. I'm like, oh man. So I took a deep breath, and I'm like, oh, whatever happens, happens. Right. I think it turned out okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. Now, listen, I don't know what you can tell us, but Tamar was in concert recently, and she kind of suggested that we might be getting some more Braxton Family Values. Mm-hmm. Anything you can tell us, or we just have to wait?
I'm really not at liberty to discuss, but when people make public announcements like that, something to that magnitude, it tends to have more truth than not, and I'll leave it at that. I mean, people, she's not a person to just make things up. Exactly. But seeing as how I'm not a cast member, I'm not at liberty to discuss. I may know a little bit, but I'm not at liberty to say. But she's not going to just make that up. That's not who she is. So,
well, fair enough. Well, listen, you're here tonight to talk about health and wellness because you are an expert in that field. And, we talk about the Black community and Black and Brown community, and it's sometimes imbalance when it comes to it.
Absolutely.
First of all, tell us, how did you get involved in this industry? Why was it something you wanted to pursue?
Well, I've always been fascinated by the aging process since I was a little kid, and it just made sense that, when people explain it to you growing up, youth, you have everything in your body, and it all works. And then as you get older, you lose certain things. So to me, aging always equated to the absence of something. And if something's leaving and you have it, it made sense to me that you could replace it. I didn't know anything outside of that, but I always paid attention to any anti-aging anything. So, but I didn't get serious. And most people, most people won't get serious about something like this until they hit maybe 40. It's when you start, facing your own mortality. Right. And so at the age of 47, two things happened. At the age of 47, two things happened. I went to early, like in January of that year, or February. No, actually it was in March. I know for sure. In March of that year, I went to get a physical and I had problems with my left knee. And I went to a general doctor because it was part of my insurance plan or whatever. And he said, we did an MRI on my body and my knees. And he said, you're about 3 to 5 years away from a knee replacement. I'm like, no, I'm not. So I called this orthopedist that I knew. His name is Dr. Richard Lehman. He's somebody you could have on too. And he'd coach. Richard Lehman, you probably have seen him, even if you don't know his name, going all the way back to Flojo and Jackie Joyner. He was one of the lead orthopedic surgeons that worked with the U.S. Olympic team. Oh, wow. I mean, as a matter of fact, the time that I went to get my procedure with him, Allison Felix was in there. I don't know what she was doing, and if I knew, I wouldn't say. But he always had Olympians in the office. Yeah. At any rate, so when I got out of this meeting, I know him personally. When I got out of this meeting with this guy who said I needed a knee replacement, I called him and he said, "Oh, bullshit." He said, "Just come to the office tomorrow at 9 o'clock and we'll do PRP." I'm like, "Well, what's PRP?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. Just be at 9 o'clock." So went to the office. They spun my blood. They pulled my blood out of my body, put it in a centrifuge and spun it for about 15 minutes.
What do you mean when you say spun it? What does that mean?
Okay, so I'll slow down. I'm sorry. So when you get PRP, what happens, if I were doing PRP on you, I would take vials of blood out of your arm. Looks like, basically like if you were getting blood for blood tests, giving blood for blood tests. Right. So we take a number of those and then they're all red. And we take those and we put them in a centrifuge, and you've seen things that spin your blood after you give blood. Then spin it. What happens, it separates into yellow, a tad of clear, and a bunch of red at the bottom. Well, the top part has the growth factors and cytokines, basically stem cells in them. And then we harvest that yellow part, the golden part, put it in a number of syringes depending on the procedure, and the numbers of procedures that we can do are many. But we take those and put them in syringes, and then we inject them into the infected areas. So in my case, he took the stem cells and put them directly into my knee. Now, we estimated that the cartilage in my left knee was about 30%, down to about 30%. And then 7 months later, after the procedure, we did another MRI, and it was back at 62. And that was when I was 47. And from that point, I've had little knee pain, and now I've gotten it because I've done it again since. I did it again last year because I hurt my right knee last year running around with some kids at the park playing football with them, and we did it again on my right knee. But as of now, I have zero knee pain.
Wow. So when you do a procedure like that, that's something is ongoing, or is it a one-time thing, or does it just depend?
See, here's the thing. The answer is yes, depending on the severity, the age of the person, the fitness level of the person. It can. I like to say that if done properly and if caught early, a lot of this stuff can be a one-time procedure. Especially stem cells. Yeah.
Wow. So why do you think this type of procedure, when it deals with stem cells, are not more commonly promoted in the medical community?
That's a very easy question. It has to do with access and availability of information. I mean, let's look at it from this perspective. A lot of people only go to the doctor when something's wrong. Yeah. And when you go to a typical doctor, they're only talking about treating the symptom itself. They're not looking at cures or regenerative or anything like that. They basically, the treatment. Okay, so before I got PRP, I went to another doctor. As a matter of fact, because during that time, Dr. Lehman was out of the country, so I didn't call him. But before I knew what it was, like 2 years prior, and like, yeah, two or 3 years prior, I got cortisone shot.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that that stuff actually eats away at your cartilage, thereby working
Really?
you towards, it does, working you towards a knee replacement. And you have to look at things for what they are. Okay. So everything is a cycle to move you to. And then they had this stuff called hyaluronic acid injections where they put HA into your cartilage and it causes a little bit of a cushion, but it goes away or whatever. It doesn't provide any regenerative properties at all. Okay. So I had all that stuff done, but I didn't know, like anyone else, I trusted my doctors. They have to know more than me.
Right.
So they went to medical school, right? And they do. But if you were to Google this, or if your listeners or viewers would Google this, the average doctor gets about, out of their entire medical training, they get about 12 hours on dietary, and they get about 4 to 6 hours on regenerative medicine. Everything else is about either surgery or medication that they put you on. And after medications that you get placed on are lifetime sentences, so to speak. So the point is that I was lucky by virtue of one of the jobs that I had. I worked for Cardinal Health, and so I was around a lot of doctors. And I just happened to be around a lot of forward-thinking doctors that provided me training while I was working with them on other things. Yeah. But they were teaching me, just sometimes passively, just because we spent so much time together, because we were trying to redo their formulary in their hospitals or something like that. And we would just, oh, what's that? And he would just explain it to me. So I was learning without unbeknownst to them, I was really just taking mental notes. But you have to know what to look for. And, when I'd spoken to Dr. Lehman prior to the time when I called him, and he said, the human body is pretty incredible. You can regenerate just about everything, and that stuck in my mind. So when this clown told me that I was going to get a knee replacement, basically 3 to 5 years ago, this 5 years, last year was 5 years. So by his term, I should have a new left knee. Well, so I was just around a lot of forward-thinking doctors, and I was blessed enough to be gifted with this information. And a lot of people just aren't. I mean, I'm telling you, I have friends that are my age, some a couple of years younger. They have brand new hips, they have knee replacements. They have all of these things that don't have to be. And if anybody's watching, and if you forget everything else I said tonight, remember this: joint replacement in almost 100% of the cases is old technology. If you have, especially in your knees and ankles and hips, elbows, if you want to regenerate your cartilage, there are procedures for it. And I say it in reverse, the low thing on the totem pole, and I know that's the most important in Indian history, but the lowest rung of that is PRP. And we're talking specifically about cartilage regeneration. Okay. No, well, price point as well, but I'm saying price point and I don't want to say efficacy, because a PRP can work as well as stem cells for some people, but the most simple and the most commonly prescribed procedure for knee pain would be PRP. So you got PRP that can regenerate cartilage, and I've experienced that. Right. Okay? After that, you've got stem cells. Okay. But then there's another rung. It's a little bit more involved. It involves surgery, but if you want to keep your knees or your hips, you can, and it's called biocartilage. And a lot of people have never even heard that term before. But it's just like you would think. It's cartilage that's grown in a lab. And if you look at it, it looks like, remember the big block Velveeta cheese? Yeah. It's grown like that. And so what they do is they'll look at you, they'll do an MRI, 3D MRI, and they'll look at your cartilage growth. Okay. And think of the heel of the worn heel of a man's dress shoe. Sometimes it'll be to the ground over here, and then it'll float up a little bit, right? Well, if your cartilage looks like this, and it's supposed to look like this, what they'll do with the biocartilage is they'll cut out the missing piece and splice it in there, and then it grows together like that to form full cartilage. Now that is going to be leg immobilization for 6 weeks, but joint replacement is the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a 6-week process, not the immobilization, but it's the same process. And so, but if people want to keep their joints, there are options beyond joint replacement. And, most doctors want to do it because it's easy and it does get you out of pain because you don't have anything to hurt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a $62,000 procedure and they get paid really well to do it. So, but if you enlist, like you're 40, right?
Yeah, I'm 40, yes.
So if what I would suggest for you, because I know you played a lot of sports, I see you working out and all that. What I would suggest is the moment you get a twinge in your knee, you come see us and we do PRP right now because you're healthy, you're in good shape, you're not fat, and for your body to look the way that it is, there's a high chance that your cholesterol is not very high, which means that your platelets, your blood is healthy, which means it's going to provide a good product. It's going to provide a good product for us to re-inject and reintroduce into your body. So I teach people that, I'm not a doctor.
Right.
Okay. I'm only a medical assistant. That's all that I am. I'm certified to take blood and do a bunch of prep work for doctors. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anti-doctor. I just introduced you to one before we started. She's here now, so I'm not anti-doctor, but the goal for wellness overall, not just with PRP or stem cells, but the goal for wellness overall is to mitigate your time between doctor visits. You got somebody who's going to doctor once a month or once every 2 months. Can we get it to once every 6 months? Can we get it to once a year? Those sorts of things. And it's about quality of life, because medication alone can keep you alive to you 80, 90 years old, but your quality of life, the last 5 years of your life, you're laying in a bed. We're talking about being healthy and active and actually doing something and still enjoying life, enjoying being here. So you asked me how I got started. So I had that incident. Now, at the same time, I was losing my father because my father developed Alzheimer's, right? And as a matter of fact, on November 3rd, it'll be 6 years. So that's how long I've been in this business. And so during that time where I was getting PRP, I was also learning about infusion therapy because I had chronic pain in my knee and my lower back. So I met with a gentleman. Funny thing is, the gentleman who introduced me to my wife, I'm pointing like everybody knows my wife's in the other room in case you're wondering why I'm pointing. But he introduced me to my wife. But he and this doctor developed his name is Jamie Dukes. He used to play for the Falcons. He was a center. But he and his doctor developed a non-opioid, non-steroid chronic pain therapy. And it's an IV. And it kills your pain like no one's business. And that was great because I was out of pain. But what's the moment, if you're in chronic pain, and maybe you're not, but if you're in chronic pain and something like my lower back hurt me every day from the time I was 28 until probably about 3 years ago when I got all these procedures. So
like my knee's like that.
Yeah, you need to come in. We need to fix that, and you need to do a video on it because it's so simple.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer. So I'm gonna have you come in and we'll talk offline. Anyway, so I was learning about that, and this stuff worked. But once I got out of pain, once my pain was reduced, it makes you optimistic. It's like, man, what else is out there? Right. And so I had the infusions prior to, and then I got this PRP. But my father was ailing, and like everybody else, like anybody else, I took the doctor's word. We spoke about that. There's nothing that you can do for Alzheimer's and dementia. That's absolutely categorically false. And I don't care who says it. I don't care who sees it, who tries to rebut it. And I'll sit down with any doctor anywhere and debate this one issue. Now, I can't debate a doctor, point by point because I don't have the knowledge. But you want to talk about Alzheimer's and dementia, I'll sit with anybody and debate this because there's this stuff called NAD. Some people refer to it as NAD. Some people only refer to it as NAD. It's nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It has been proven to halt and reverse the effects of Alzheimer's.
Wow.
So, but first time I heard about NAD was about 2 months after my dad died. And I'll tell anybody, my dad will have been gone 6 years. Had I known what I know now just 7 years ago, he'd still be here because he was otherwise healthy. My mom is 80. My dad would be about to, and because in November 26th, he would have turned 81. But he was in otherwise good health, running up and down the basement stairs, full of energy. He just lost his mind.
Right.
So came across this information about nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and just for about a week, I was just furious. I mean, I literally spent all of my time reading about NAD, and I was just furious. And then I said, you know what? I missed this mark, but that doesn't mean other people have to.
Yeah.
And so with the knowledge of infusions, because I'd experienced that, then I had PRP, and then I knew about NAD. I got so mad that I started a wellness clinic in St. Louis. It was called Pro IV Chronic Pain Center. The name of the non-opioid, non-steroid pain infusion was called Pro IV. And so I named it after that, and was doing a really good clip of business. But during that same period of time, in August of 17, Jamie introduced me to my wife, and things progressed, and we were exclusive by October of that same year. Yeah. And so I ran the clinic.
On moving originally to Florida, was that correct?
My children would tell you, I have 3 boys, Evan, Cameron, and Brendan. Brendan's the youngest, and I used to always say, Brendan, when you graduate from high school, your dad's out of St. Louis. So I was going to go to Florida, but I was down here doing business, met her, and here we are. But that's how I got in the business. It was kind of, I always had an interest, but it was by mistake that I ended up where I did. But the thing I want to spend the most time on is because you have nothing if you don't have your health, but you have nothing if you're out of your mind. I want to spend some time on NAD, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link to a doctor who is one of the world's foremost experts on anti-aging. And she sits and touts the attributes of NAD almost on a weekly basis. Her name is Dr. Rhonda Patrick. I'll send you her link, because a lot of people, if you're interested in anti-aging, you can follow me a little bit, but you really need to follow she and also Dr. David Sinclair. They're 2 of the world's experts on anti-aging. And I've met Dr. Patrick, brilliant lady. But NAD has the ability, the unique quality or ability that it helps bolster the brain. It provides support to the brain. Well, I need to go backward. Yes, it's great for the brain, but NAD is great for everything. And here's why: because nothing in your body occurs without NAD. You, me, everybody watching, newborn baby, 90-year-old person, we have, give or take, 34 trillion cells in our body. All of them use NAD as the gasoline to run. Without them, there's nothing. And Dr. Patrick will say, this molecule is so important, without it, life on the planet ceases to exist. So, and here's the thing, you and I and everybody else watching will readily agree that our cells are responsible for all of the functions in our body. We all know that, but we forget one key point, and that point is that cells also make other cells. And here's where the anti-aging aspect of NAD occurs, in that if I flush you with NAD, and I told you to come get, you get one on me and you'll love it. But when I flush you full of NAD, 2 things happen. You feel awake, you feel alive, you smell, your sense of smell is heightened, your sense of taste, your hearing, sight, all of that stuff is heightened because I flushed you full of this life-supporting molecule. But the other thing is when I flush you full of it, for a good period of time, your body will make a higher quality cell. So that's where the anti-aging aspect of this stuff comes in. So I have access to everything: PRP, stem cells, exosomes. We're going to talk about that next.
You have your own clinic, your wellness clinic here now.
I did. Now I work in an office.
Okay.
I work in a chiropractor's office now, but I did have a standalone in Buckhead, but I just could not generate the foot traffic it was a great location for traffic, but it was so inconvenient. People just didn't want to come there.
Right.
It was such a busy part of Buckhead.
Yeah.
But I have access to any wellness therapy I want, anytime. I mean, I can literally do PRP right here. I can do anything I want. But if I had to pick one wellness therapy for the rest of my life, it would be NAD, because it's just that powerful. So it also helps the body heal itself. It helps the body fight pain and inflammation the natural way. So I have an infusion that I call it NAD plus pain. So I have something that will start killing your pain almost immediately, because that's what it's designed to do. But then with the introduction of NAD, it helps your body fight pain for an extended period of time the way that it was designed to do. It's just a great infusion. So so that's how I got in the business. It was just by personal experience alone.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you think? I know we talked a little bit about this previously, but what do you think when, we were still in the pandemic, but really it hit us really hard last year, and we saw that the main people who we were losing were Black and brown people. What did that show you about our health system, and just when it comes to wellness in minority communities?
I'm laughing not because of what you said, but what I know to be true behind those statements. First off, that's an absolute falsehood. Fewer of us, and I'm talking about obviously numbers because there were fewer of us in the country, but percentage wise, fewer of us passed away from COVID than Anglos. And if you dig deeply enough, and in person, I can show you that data, and and a number of doctors, a lot of people that I work with know that. But you said, how does that speak to the health system in this country? And again, it's the same answer as I gave you for people knowing about stem cells and PRP. It's just access. So much misinformation, and I first off, I don't want to get the show canceled.
I know.
I'm already on somebody's watch list, so
right.
It's too late for me.
That part.
but there are some simple things you can do to protect yourself against COVID. They're common sense things, and I'm not going to say just in the Black community, but if you talk to people that are in our age group, maybe a little bit older than you, but our grandparents, when they had remedies, because a lot of people didn't have money, didn't have access to doctors and stuff like that. So there were things they had to do. But the simplest thing a person can do to help fight against COVID, when this thing first came out, and if you want these videos, I will send them to you. But they, the first reports that we got is that it's not very resistant to heat. Sunlight is a good thing for you to get. But they went away from that because people were actually doing it. It was free. But the stuff is not very resistant to heat. So I'm sure you got a grandmother or great grandmother or great aunt or somebody that told you to do this when you had the cold or the flu. Boil a pot of water and put a towel over your head and breathe the steam in. And everybody will readily accept that is a good treatment for the cold and the flu, right? Okay, well, COVID is not the flu, but it is a virus. And all viruses enter and mutate the same way, the vast majority of them, not all of them. But they enter the nose, the mouth, and then they incubate in the nasal cavity and in the lungs, right? So I'm lucky enough I've always used, like when I feel the beginnings of a sore throat, I gargle with peroxide. I've been doing that since college. Someone told me to do it. And I was like, I wonder if that would work for this. And lo and behold, I know a doctor who gave me a white paper. Did I send it to you yet? If I didn't, I'll send it to you. Text me your email address. I'll send it to you. As a white paper, you can share it with your viewers. But it's a white paper. This doctor that's been doing hydrogen peroxide therapies since 1989 or 90. So and I don't want to go into the science, but let's just go into the easy part. So that same pot of water, a small rice pot, put about an inch of water in it, because that's all you need for steam, right?
Right.
Put 4 or 5 tablespoons of peroxide in that same amount of water, let it steam up and breathe it in. We all know if anybody that's ever eaten at a restaurant knows, well, not everybody knows this, but if you've ever eaten at a restaurant, when they shut that thing down, they disinfect with peroxide. That's what they do, because it's even more effective than bleach. They disinfect the countertops, the floors, everything, utensils. They use hydrogen peroxide for that. Now it's a different grade than you would have at home, but it's the same premise. So this white paper will show you that just adding peroxide to that boiling water, if you breathe it in, breathe in your mouth, if it comes in contact with a virus, it's going to kill it. So, people were like, oh my God, stay indoors. It's like, first off, I'm not built that way. And I'm just not going to live my life in fear, because I think just my time is about. I'm not going to do anything stupid, like ride a motorcycle 200 miles an hour, but I'm also not going to stay in the house. So Trina and I, my entire family, we implement this process, and I have a 80-year-old mom, and I have aunts that are around the same age. And since when my dad passed, my mother and her 2 sisters moved in together. I call them the Golden Girls. But if we have a family gathering, we have a big humidifier that holds a gallon of water, and it's got a bottle and a half of peroxide in it, and it's steaming up. And I encourage people to go over and breathe it in. And we haven't had any transmittance of COVID. But the other thing that we do is a medicine. It's a peptide, and a lot of people don't know what a peptide is. And I won't go into the science of it, but the peptides are basically strings of amino acids that come together to do something. But there are lots of peptides, and there are 3 of them that I use regularly: Sermolin and Nepromolin, or for wellness, longevity, weight loss, and all that. We can talk about that at another date. But the specific peptide I'm speaking of right now is called thymosin, THYMOSIN, alpha 1. There's an alpha 1, there's a beta 1. I don't use a beta, but I use alpha. But most people don't understand that your immune system is provided by your thymus gland. That's what makes all your killer cells, your T cells, all of that stuff. Your thymus gland does that. So I have a male analogy for this, but I don't have a female one. I'll figure it out at some point. But so if your thymus gland is the engine, thymosin alpha 1 is like putting a supercharger on top of it. It just makes it stronger. And so what we do here is we inject subcutaneously, that's in stomach fat, just right in your stomach, twice a week. And my family does it in St. Louis, and a lot of my friends that, have had issues with, COVID or whatever, we just inject twice a week with that. So that, coupled with when we have an outing, or if I go out in public or whatever, I went to a cigar bar past weekend. Well, I didn't do it when I got home, because I got home at like 12:30. But the next morning I got up and I turned on. So instead of using a pot, my wife has a face steamer, press a button, it steams. So in that reservoir is this big, I'll put 2/3 water, 1/3 peroxide. And so it's right by the bed. I just lean over, press that button, let it steam up, and just hold it in. And so that plus and I've been around 70 people with COVID.
Yeah.
I never contracted it. I mean, I work with 2 women in my office that contracted pretty severe cases of it. I actually gave them infusions while they were sick, and they coughed in my face and all of that. And we've had other patients all throughout last year, that would cough in my face, and they called the office two days later, like, oh my God, I have COVID. I didn't get it. And it's not that I don't have the antibodies either. So that means that I've never gotten it. I don't have some super body that I got it and just never knew it, and I have the antibodies. It's never infiltrated my body. It's never mutated in my body. Because I wish I had the antibodies, because I have testosterone pellets. There's something that you get, it's called a thickening of the blood, and so I donate blood once a month. As a way to maintain my. And we can talk about that another time too. for men as they're getting older, that's a really good alternative to weekly shots or biweekly shots. But I go donate blood and they test it and I don't have the antibodies.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all you need to have. So when you, obviously, I'm sure you feel more comfortable sharing this type of information with family and friends and people that you're close to.
Yeah.
What is their initial reaction? Now, obviously, it's worked for them now, but what's their initial reaction when you're like, well, this is what I believe we should do?
Yeah, well, it's they call it programming, television programming for a reason.
Yeah.
Most people look at me like I'm crazy, and it's funny. It takes either them or somebody that they're close to getting really, really sick, and then they listen, So I had in the beginning, like I had a friend of mine who's like, man, I'm not doing that PRP shit. I'm gonna go get a knee replacement. I'm like, golly, okay, whatever. And he got it. One of the worst experiences in his life. His other knee hurts because he was overcompensating. He got stem cells on that and it's just fine. And he's kicking himself. He's like, I still have my knee. I'm like, yeah. It's like, damn, why don't you try harder? I said, what did you want me to do? Tackle you and make you go?
Right.
You at least you can lead him to water, bro, but you can't make him drink. So, it's I've gotten to the point, and it's just this simple. There are people that still scoff at what I say, and that's fine. That's okay. I don't have the time or the energy to argue. I'm not going to argue with you.
Right.
I know what I know, and I know that it works. I make a living at doing it. So, and there are people that bring their family members back after I've treated them. I give them this lady a chronic pain infusion, and she's like, oh my God, and brought her husband back later on that afternoon because he had to have it because he's got knee problems. And then I'm treating their friends, and people in the neighborhood now are starting to come over to the clinic because they know that the stuff works. So I spend my time talking to people that want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's fine. There's nothing to argue about.
Right.
I don't want, I feel badly for people that won't embrace wellness and regenerative medicine, but that's not my job.
Right.
If there are enough people that want to hear what I and Dr. Brandon Brown and Dr. Holly Ridgely have to say, and Dr. George Hettinger, someone else that I work with very closely. There are enough people that want to hear what these people have taught me that I can fill my entire day up with it. So if people don't want to hear it, and it's kind of like, I know, because I know the type of guy that you are. When I gave you information about, any ailment that you may have been facing or whatever, I'm sure you went and told people. And you probably had the same, response. Whatever. Okay, Steve, good, whatever. But I choose to spend my time with people that want to hear the message because that's enough to fill your day.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and some people are stubborn and they won't want to let you know when they realize that you were right. But there are going to be a good number of people that are going to come back to you and say, what was that information again? So, I just, you know what? I have the water's right there. I can point you to the water. If you don't want to drink it, that's on you.
Yeah. So what advice someone's listening tonight and they are interested in, pursuing these type of treatments? What do they do next? Like, what's the next step?
Here's what I would suggest, because I'd love for people to come see me, but it's not about, if you look at my Instagram page, every week I post things about health and wellness. Yeah. I don't have any paid service for that, for a simple fact is it's not about, I have ways of making money. That's but you can't make money on everything. And the best information is always free information. So what I tell people is do your own research. Like when I talk to people about stem cells, well, does it do this? Does it do this? Here's what I tell them. Google stem cell therapy 4. And whatever that 4 is if you Parkinson's, for dementia, for whatever, just Google it, NAD therapy 4 ... and put in whatever your ailment is. I mean, if you look at the list of the things, and I'm going to run them down for you, the list of the things that NAD treats, to me, Alzheimer's and dementia are the most important because, that's what caused me to lose my father. Yeah. But after that, Lyme disease, they say there's no cure for Lyme disease. Yeah, and you can find 100 articles of people who had Lyme disease and no longer have it. It's good for Parkinson's. It's good for PTSD. The NAD is in higher doses is used to wean people off of drugs and alcohol dependence and addiction. I mean, there's high blood pressure, diabetes. There's so many things that NAD fights against, protects the body, bolsters the body against that you really don't have enough time to do it, along with the fact that it's good for your hair, skin, nails, your energy, just an overall feeling of wellness. Like I said, if I had to, I'm not going to give up any of it, but if I had to choose one, I would keep NAD. So the advice that I would give to someone is look up NAD, look up stem cells, look up PRP, look up exosomes. And if you have time, I'll go into exosomes a bit, but look up these things and use the name stem cell, PRP, exosome, NAD therapy 4, and just put your element behind it and see what comes up. And then, I'll give you my name and access to my number and access to the website. And if people want more information, they can call me at the office. But not everybody you're nationwide and you probably got people overseas too. Not everybody lives here.
Right.
But I'll literally, if people call me, if they're serious, don't call and waste my time because I don't appreciate that. But if you're serious and you live in Ohio, I hope you find a provider there. You live in New Mexico, I hope you find a provider, because I just, it's a small community of people. And the funny thing is, it's like when you go to the doctor and you have, hell, if you have COVID, if you have, any other normal ailment that a doctor would see you for, that doctor's going to spend 4 to 6 minutes in the room, and he's insurance only pays for, so that's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that people in the wellness and longevity and regenerative medicine industry, they are some of the kindest people, and they'll talk to you for 20 minutes, a half hour. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, I'm a nobody. I mean, she stands atop the pyramid in regenerative medicine. That lady spoke to me for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
Because she said, she knew that I understood what I was talking about. So she just kept spitting stuff at me. She goes, put this in your phone, put here, let me give you this website. The people in this industry are some of the most helpful people you'll ever meet in your life, because if someone wants to know, I want to tell them.
Right. And I can imagine because they're excited about it, because this is something different than what we've been told we can get done. And
a lot of it's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive because, a pill for this, a pill for that. It's like,
right.
I don't know. And here, let me, I said I was going to speak about exosomes, so let me do that.
Okay.
So, and I can share this because he's my son, but I have 3 sons that played, big time college football. I have 2 quarterbacks, so Evan quarterback, Cameron quarterback, and then Brennan was a tight end. Brennan probably got hit the most because he was a tight end, and he also played in the SEC, played in Missouri. A little bit of concussive syndrome, and he just finished in December, graduated in December. And so his football career is done. This is the first season since he was 6 years old, he hasn't had a helmet on. So it's a bit of an adjustment, and he has screws in both of his feet because he broke both of his feet because he has high arches, or we might be having a different conversation now. Right. He'd probably still be playing, but I digress. So, but he has some concussive, and so do Evan and Cameron, but they're of a lesser degree. And luckily I had Brendan lived here for about 10 months. He just moved back to St. Louis to take a job, but he was down here and he spent a lot of time sitting in the dark, because people with that syndrome, that's what they do, And I gave him a round of exosomes, and it was about 4 to 5 weeks later, he came to me and said, Dad, I'm starting to feel clear. It's like, this is the clearest I've felt in 5 years, because he spent 5 years at Missouri. So if stem cells, we'll agree that stem cells in our body carry the information, right? But there have to be pathways for the information to flow down, right? So if stem cells are the information, then exosomes are the fiber optics. Okay. Now, a stem cell cannot penetrate the blood-brain barrier. I don't know why. I just know that it doesn't. Okay. If I'd gone to med school, I might be able to explain to you why it doesn't. But it's too big. That's the layman answer, is just too big. Right. Yeah. Exosomes penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and so I gave him a round, and like I said, 4 to 6 weeks after, he came to me and said that he felt better, and that has been, I guess he got him in, He got him right after Evan's birthday, so the first week of August.
Oh, wow.
And he is better. And so for Christmas, all of them are getting another round of exosomes, because I'm trying to protect their brains.
Yeah.
So there's some things that I can teach people to do, to help their children. And that's really what it's all about. And Dr. David Sinclair, he's my age, born in 68. He says that our age group is the last age group that's going to live a normal life expectancy of that 76 to 82. Yeah. He said immediately after that, so like people like you, your life expectancy immediately jumps to 100 because the technology is here.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is, and it's there's just so much information. I want to share so much, and it's like the people have to be willing to hear it. But you asked me what led me to this, and it was my dad's death, but it was this one thing in particular. At the time when he passed away, I realized that if I lived the same amount of time as him, I had 27 years left. Now he's been dead 6 years. So if I live as long as my dad, I had 21 years left.
Yeah.
I don't even have a grandkid yet. You know what I mean? There's so much that I want. I just got married, December of 19. It hadn't even been 2 years yet. I'd like to celebrate, a 50th wedding anniversary, but I got to live a long time to do that because I got married when I was 50,
right?
51. You know what I mean? So, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But the point is that whatever days I have left on this planet, they will be filled with, they'll be of a higher quality,
right?
Than had I not gone down this path. And so, it's. I guess if you have huge facilities, you'll make a good living, but I don't see a lot of people doing the right thing and getting rich in this industry. But you can provide for your family. You can, but I think it was more. I had to reprogram my mother, because I'm not ready for her to go. I had to reprogram my aunts and people around me. I think maybe this path was just for me to turn the heads of the people closest to me so that they would, try to live a more holistic and natural life, healthy life. So, and if that's the case, then I've done my job.
Most definitely. Well, where is the best way to keep up with you? I know you go live on Instagram, and sometimes you'll have different people you speak.
Sporadically, I do, and I need to get back to doing more wellness updates. And I haven't for a very long time. I used to do them from the clinic. I may just do one tomorrow.
Yeah.
I may do one tomorrow, and I'll shoot you a text, and maybe you can come on with me and draw some people in too. But you can follow me on Instagram. It's just my name, Von Scales. Facebook, I've got 4,200 friends there, so the capacity is not there, and I don't have that public figure thing because I'm not that yet. So Instagram is probably the best way.
Yeah. And you mentioned a website. Can people go on there?
Yeah, the website to the clinic that I work at is hmfcc.com. The H is for Hamilton, M for Mill, and then Family Complete Care. So hmfcc.com. And you can see a list of all the infusions that I offer, plus there's chiropractic and a host of other things. So.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. You definitely gave us a lot to think about, a lot to research on, and just thinking outside the box of what we've been told for so many years. And again, it from experience and, with you and your family. So we definitely appreciate you just giving this information.
Thank you. I would like to say to anyone and everyone, question everything. Question everything, because the truth will always stand up to scrutiny. And I would tell everyone, do your own research.
Yes.
A doctor tells you something, there's nothing wrong with researching what a doctor tells you. Hippocrates, he's from Crete, I think it was, but one of his famous quote, he has a bunch of them, but the only one that I know is, he who is not his own doctor is a fool. It's your body. It's your responsibility. And if you know what's going on, here's the thing, walk into a doctor's office with a little bit of knowledge of your condition, because that will make the doctor respect you. He won't be as dismissive to you because he knows that you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So,
listen, our thanks goes out to Von Scales for joining us tonight. For more information, go to our website, thestevenknightshow.com, and we will be right back after this.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.